what is the rapture of the church?
Mm.
It's a question that sparks a lot of debate,
Yeah.
even among believers.
Right.
Some find it confusing,
Mm-hmm.
while others dismiss it as a fairy tale.
Yeah.
Today we're diving deep into this intriguing concept,
Okay.
exploring what the Bible says and what it
Okay.
could mean for you.
You're right. The rapture can be a controversial topic. But what's fascinating is that the idea of a rescue before judgment isn't something new or made up.
Okay.
It's woven throughout Scripture, pointing to God's consistent character and his heart for his people.
Okay, so let's unpack this.
Sure.
Where do we even begin to understand this idea of the rapture?
Well, think about it this way.
Okay.
If the rapture is real,
Yeah.
and we believe it is, then we should see hints of it throughout history.
Okay.
God doesn't change.
Right.
He's the same yesterday, today, and forever.
Right.
So his actions in the past can give us insights into how he might act in the future.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
So are there any examples in the Bible that foreshadow the rapture?
Absolutely. Let's journey back to the Old Testament.
Okay.
Think about the story of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh, wow. That's a pretty intense example of God's judgment.
Yeah.
Fire and brimstone raining down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But before that destruction, what happened to Lot and his family?
They were warned by angels
Right.
and led out of the city to safety.
Precisely. They were rescued before the judgment fell.
Yeah.
It's a powerful picture of God's mercy and his desire to spare the righteous from his wrath.
So in a way, Lot and his family experienced a kind of rapture from that doomed city.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And there's another fascinating detail in that story.
Okay.
Remember, Lot was initially afraid to flee to the mountains, as the angels instructed.
Yeah.
He begged to find refuge in a nearby city called Zoar.
Right. And Zoar was originally slated for destruction too,
Yes.
wasn't it?
But because a righteous man took refuge there, God spared the city.
Wow.
It's a reminder that God's protection can extend to those around us, even impacting the fate of entire communities.
So one righteous person's presence can really make a difference.
Right.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And there's also the story of Noah's Ark, right? Another powerful example of judgment and rescue.
Absolutely. God warned Noah about the coming flood and instructed him to build an ark. While the world outside was consumed by the floodwaters, Noah and his family found safety and refuge inside the ark.
It's like a picture of the church being sheltered from God's judgment during the tribulation period.
Yes, and remember, the ark was big enough to hold many more people than just Noah and his family.
Yeah.
There was room for anyone who heeded God's warning and sought refuge.
Yeah.
Sadly, they chose not to listen.
What is the rapture of the church? It sounds like it's about God providing a way of escape for his people before he pours out his judgment.
That's a great observation. And we see this pattern repeated throughout the Old Testament. Think about Rahab.
Okay.
The woman who hid the Israelite spies in Jericho.
Oh, yes. She was a Gentile woman living in a city that was about to be destroyed.
Exactly. But because of her faith and her actions, she was spared. The Israelites were instructed to leave her house untouched, marked by a scarlet cord.
Right.
She and her family were literally raptured or caught away from the destruction that came upon the rest of Jericho.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
It's like God provided a personalized escape route for her and her family. It really highlights this idea of God's individual care and protection for those who trust him.
You're getting it.
And let's not forget the Passover.
Right.
The Israelites were protected from the plague of death by the blood of the lamb on their doorposts.
Yeah.
It was a sign for God to pass over their homes.
Right.
Like a divine seal of protection. I'm seeing a theme here.
Yeah.
Time and time again, God rescues the righteous before pouring out his wrath.
Well, you got it. And these stories aren't just ancient history.
Yeah.
They're powerful reminders of God's character and his faithfulness.
Right.
They give us glimpses into how he might act
Yeah.
when he returns for his church.
So we've seen these amazing examples of God's rescue in the Old Testament.
Right.
It's clear that he's always provided a way of escape for his people before judgment. But where does the rapture fit into all of this? How does it connect to these Old Testament events?
That's a great question, and it brings us to the New Testament,
Okay.
where the concept of the rapture is described more explicitly.
Right.
But remember, it's not a new idea.
Uh-huh.
It's the culmination of God's consistent character and actions throughout history.
Right. So it's not like God suddenly decided to invent this whole rapture thing out of nowhere.
Right.
It's been his plan all along.
Exactly. And the New Testament gives us more specific details about how this rescue will unfold.
Mm-hmm.
One of the key passages is found in 1 Thessalonians 4:13-18.
I've heard that passage read many times.
Yeah.
But I'm always struck by the vivid imagery, believers being caught up to meet the Lord in the air.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And not only that, but 1 Corinthians 15:50-54 talks about believers being changed in a moment.
Wow.
Receiving glorified bodies.
That's like a divine upgrade.
It is.
Okay, but this is where it gets a little confusing for me.
Yeah.
There are so many different interpretations about when this rapture will happen.
Right.
Pre-tribulation, mid-tribulation, post-tribulation.
Yeah.
It's hard to know what to believe.
I hear you. There's been a lot of debate and speculation about the timing of the rapture.
Right.
And honestly, getting bogged down in those arguments can sometimes distract us from the bigger picture.
What do you mean?
Well, what's truly important is understanding the core principle.
Okay.
God rescues his people.
Right.
The when is important, but focusing on the why helps us understand the heart of God and his incredible love for us.
So you're saying that whether the rapture happens before, during, or after the tribulation period, the main point is that God will not abandon his people. He will rescue them from the coming judgment.
That's it. And that knowledge should impact how we live our lives today. What is the rapture of the church? It's a powerful reminder that this world is not our final destination.
Right. If we truly believe that God is going to intervene in history, that he's going to rescue his followers, shouldn't that give us hope and motivate us to live differently?
Absolutely. It should fuel our desire to share this hope with others, knowing that a time of great darkness is coming upon the earth.
It changes everything.
It really does.
Instead of getting caught up in worldly pursuits or anxieties, we can live with a sense of purpose and urgency, knowing that our true home is in heaven.
You're getting it. And sometimes I hear people dismiss the rapture as some kind of escapist fantasy, but I see it as the opposite.
Okay.
It's a call to action. It's a reminder that we have a responsibility to live in a way that reflects God's love and justice in this world, knowing that he is coming back for us.
It's not about checking out of reality. But engaging with it even more deeply.
Exactly.
Knowing that we have a higher purpose, a greater hope.
The Bible tells us to be ready, to be watchful, to live each day as if he could return at any moment.
Wow.
What is the rapture of the church? It's about trusting God's plan, even when it doesn't make sense to the world.
It's a mystery.
Right.
A promise and a call to live differently. It's about more than just trying to figure out the timing. It's about understanding the heart of God. And living in light of his incredible love and faithfulness. So we've talked about the rapture as this incredible rescue mission planned by God. And we've seen how it's hinted at throughout the Bible. But I think the question that's on everyone's mind is, what does it all mean for us right now? How should knowing about the rapture affect how we live our lives today?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
See, for some people, the idea of the rapture can lead to a sort of sit-back-and-wait attitude.
Really?
They figure if God's going to rescue them from all the trouble in the world, why bother trying to make things better now?
It's like hitting the cosmic snooze button on life.
Exactly. And that's a dangerous way to think. In fact, the truth is quite the opposite. The rapture should actually motivate us to live with even more purpose and urgency.
Because we know that time might be short.
That's one way to look at it. But even more importantly, it's because we understand the seriousness of what's coming. We see the world moving further and further away from God. And we know that judgment is a certainty.
So it's not about escaping the world. But about engaging with it even more deeply,
Exactly.
Trying to make a difference while we still have the chance.
Precisely. It's about being salt and light in a dark world.
Yeah.
It's about sharing the hope of the gospel with those who desperately need it.
Right.
If we truly believe that Jesus is coming back, that he's going to set things right, then our lives should reflect that hope.
It's almost like we're ambassadors of a coming kingdom.
That's a great way to put it.
Aren't we?
We're citizens of heaven, living in a foreign land. And our mission is to represent our King well, to show people what his love and grace look like in action.
But that can be tough.
It can.
Can it?
Yeah.
Especially when we see so much darkness and suffering around us.
It's true.
Yeah.
We're not immune to the pain and brokenness of this world.
Right.
But the rapture gives us perspective.
Okay.
It reminds us that this isn't all there is. There's a better world coming.
Yeah.
A world where there will be no more tears or pain or death.
And knowing that gives us the strength to keep going.
Right.
To keep fighting for what's right.
Yeah.
To keep loving others, even when it's hard.
Absolutely. What is the rapture of the church? It's not an excuse to check out of life.
Right.
It's a reason to lean in even further.
Okay.
It's a call to live with courage, compassion, and conviction.
Right.
Knowing that our ultimate hope isn't in this world, but in the one who is coming back for us.
It's about living lives that are worthy of that rescue.
Yes.
Worthy of the kingdom we're being prepared for.
Yeah.
It's about aligning ourselves with God's heart and his plan for humanity.
You've got it. It's a wake-up call.
Yeah.
A challenge and a promise, all wrapped up in one.
Wow.
And if we let it, it can transform how we live, how we love, and how we impact the world around us.
Wow, that's a powerful way to think about it.
It is.
Thank you for diving deep into this topic with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
Yeah.
It's always fascinating to explore these profound truths and see how they connect to our lives right now.
And for all of you listening, we would love to hear from you.
Yes.
What does the rapture mean to you? How does this concept shape your perspective on life and your actions in the world?
Right.
Leave us a comment and join the conversation.
Yes.
Can't wait to hear your thoughts.